it's not just the energy crisis that we're facing with higher power bills, but we've also had the warning from Treasurer Jim Chalmers in the Sunday News Corp papers today that inflation is currently sitting significantly higher, that was the term he used, than the 5.1% forecast. And he said he's going to have to change these forecasts when Parliament returns. We know that we've got the RBA meeting on Tuesday and you know, there could be an interest rate rise then. Look, all of these factors that are coming together, rising inflation, rolling interest rate rises, power bills going up, a shortage of energy supply. Jenna, the line that we're hearing out of Labor at the moment consistently is to blame everything on the coalition government, which has been in power for 9 years. But how long can they continue this blame without actually saying what they're going to do to address these problems? And you know, I'm saying this in the context of Labor campaigning on the fact that it was going to ease cost of living pressures, and that's not the reality. There's no way that they can ease cost of living pressures when the economy is facing a really difficult period.
Yeah, absolutely, Sharri. I think the next 18 months is going to be really critical just to see how everyday Australians have to conduct their lives. The fact that purse strings are probably going to be really tight over the next couple of months. And I think it's really interesting that the Labor government now is sort of reading from the rule book of McGowan, which we saw him come to power in WA a couple of years ago. And during his entire first term, everything was every blame was put at the foot of Colin Barnett and the former Liberal government. And there's only so much you can get away with, because I think we're seeing it now specifically in the health systems as well. All around the country, the states and territories' health departments are completely crumbling. You look at what's happening in Victoria, where, you know, the Premier was in charge of the health portfolio for years and years and years, and it's fallen over. And it's the same here in Western Australia. So I think when we're seeing people, specifically our most vulnerable being pensioners, people with young children having to turn off their heating during winter, and we see something like the scenes that we saw in 1998 in Victoria, then I think there's going to become a massive call on the government, and also specifically I think the Greens and the Teal, to say, what are you going to do about this? You went to a campaign for 6 weeks and said you're going to make our lives easier. I think now is the time that they start showing their cards, rather than pointing the fingers at blame, which people are sick and tired of hearing about all through COVID and things like that. What are they actually going to do?
Matt Canavan, I'm interested in your perspective on this, because Labor is promising real wage increases. So they've said that they've written to the Fair Work Commission saying that the wage rises, to have it a real wage rise, it has to be higher than inflation. Do you agree with this, Matt, or do you think this will fuel inflation?
Well, look, everybody does want a pay rise, and I can understand why, especially people doing it very tough right now, would like to see one. I don't disagree that those on low incomes deserve, and those on the minimum wage deserve, to try and keep up with inflation. The key thing, though, is we need a plan from the government to make sure that doesn't blast out into a broader wage price spiral, because that would ultimately be worse for those people on low incomes. Then the subsequent higher prices would completely chew up any increase in wages, and they'd do it tougher than anybody else. Inflation is the worst tax, especially for those who really have no other option, or on wages, don't have assets that go up with inflation. So what we really need to see from Jim Chalmers here is a budget that restrains spending. Not enough people are making the comment here that the way that the federal government can help reduce inflationary pressures is to pull back on government spending. And I know that was a hard argument to make through an election campaign, where everybody wants to. The incentive is to spend more money, but we do need to do that right now. The Reserve Bank has their job to do with interest rates. The federal government has a job to do with spending, and so this budget coming up the next few months is going to be crucial for our economic health.